Hello, everybody. This is Willie Sublet III, founder of RightTouch Solutions, and welcome back to the RightTouch Rundown. Last week, we talked about alignment, how the board, the staff, volunteers, and the budget must all move in the same direction if strategy is going to work. But alignment alone is not enough. You can have a clear plan, you can have aligned resources, and you can still struggle to have consistent follow through. That, my friends, is where accountability comes in. Today, as we close this 4-part episode arc, we are going to quickly, my version, discuss creating a culture of accountability. Not a system, not a spreadsheet, but a culture. Because accountability is not about catching people when they did something wrong. It's about creating an environment where ownership, follow through, and clarity are just normal. In a healthy organization, accountability does not feel heavy. It feels shared. People know what they're responsible for. They know how progress will be checked, and they know they'll be supported, not punished or called out in public when things get difficult. Let's talk about accountability and what it actually looks like, what it does not look like, and how leaders build it without fear, without burnout, and without micromanagement. Get that out of here. Now, let's start by clearing some up, because accountability is one of the most misunderstood words in leadership that I'm noticing. Up top, accountability is not punishment. Accountability is not pressure. And accountability is not watching people very closely, waiting for them to make a mistake. Okay? Now we know what accountability is not. But what accountability is, it is clarity with a dash of follow through, about 3/4 of a cup. At its core, accountability simply means that people understand what they're responsible for, and they feel a shared commitment to carrying it through. There's no fear in that. There's no threat in that, but there is structure, there is trust, and there's expectation. Again, healthy organizations make accountability just normal. It's every day. They know how progress will be checked. They know that if something does not go as planned, the conversations will be honest. It won't be pointed at a person and their personality, and it won't be harmful. True accountability can show up in small yet consistent moments. It'll show up when someone gives an update without being asked. It'll show up when a leader checks in or a director checks in before something goes off track. It shows up when commitments are taken seriously, even when no one was watching, right? When you have a true accountability culture, all those moments will happen organically or naturally. Accountability is also shared, friends. It does not live on one person's shoulders. I'm talking to you, leaders. It is not the president or the board chair's job alone. It is a cultural agreement from everybody that says, if we say we are going to do something, we will either do it or talk about, discuss why we could not do it. And that's that simple. And it is an important distinction. In accountability cultures, miscommunications are not hidden. They are addressed. Remember, we talked about admitting and quitting it. Not with shame, but with curiosity. How can we fix it? They discussed that what got in the way, what support was missing, what needs to change moving forward. So we're not saying, what did you do? Why didn't you do it this way? We're trying to figure out the culture, the organization, how it get moving despite of anything that happened. That is how accountability strengthens teams instead of burning them out. And this is how organizations will grow without leaders carrying everything on their shoulders alone. Now that we are clear on what accountability actually is, we need to talk about what it's not. A lot of organizations are struggling with accountability because they are reacting to the wrong definition. I think accountability has been changed somewhere along the way. So here's all the things accountability is not. Accountability is not micromanagement. Huh? Remove the thought that right now, remove the thought right now, got tongue tied, that watching everybody's every move, asking constant update questions, hovering over them, that is not accountability. You are creating anxiety, you are creating resentment, and people who feel monitored instead of trusted are prone to not take ownership in what they're doing. They are on the defense and plotting your demise and your organization's demise. So if you believe that you are on top of everybody and that's what accountability is, Willie told you right now, you're wrong. Accountability is also not public correction. Calling people out in meetings or addressing miscommitments in front of everybody may feel efficient to let everybody know I'm going to stop it as a leader, nip it in the bud. That just damages trust. Accountability conversations should protect the dignity while still honoring responsibilities, right? You have to remember, because a lot of you leaders are forgetting, we are nonprofits, right? Remember, these individuals are volunteers and they can roll out based on emotions. Now, I'm not saying you should let bad behavior keep you trapped instead of telling them something, but that's a whole other video on how to deal with that. What I'm saying is you don't have to call people to the carpet all the time and rudely. You can pull them to the side, correct it, and move forward. That is still true leadership. Another accountability not. It's not silence. One of the most common breakdowns happens when leaders notice something is off, but they don't say nothing. A deadline gets missed. Updates get skipped. And then you just keeping it silent. That erodes the standards. That just lets everybody know I can do whatever I want to do. When leaders misunderstand accountability, they often swing between a lot of extremes. Either they avoid it completely to keep pace, or they overcorrect and become controlling. Neither approach creates that healthy organization we talked about earlier. True accountability sits right in the middle and is clear without being harsh. It is consistent without being heavy, and it is firm without being personal. You can address somebody's behavior without making it personal. When accountability is done well, people do not feel watched. They feel supported. They feel valued. They know what is expected. They know what's going to happen when it's not done. They trust leadership. They'll address their challenges by themselves and then admit them to you early, and you can hit them with fairness. Huh? That is what the not section. Now, most accountability breakdowns will not happen, do not happen because people are lazy, they don't care. They happen because leaders unintentionally create conditions or scenarios or situations where follow through is difficult or uncontrollable. One that I see a lot is the avoidance, right? Leaders avoid hard conversations because they want to preserve a relationship. Usually on a board or in a nonprofit or anything you're doing in this space, this community space, you know one another. You know, y'all have coffee, your kids know one another. Y'all been to the Costco together, right? You don't want to seem harsh. You don't want to create tensions. And over time, keep doing that avoidance, you'll send a quiet message that standards are flexible and commitments are optional, okay? Accountability also breaks down when leaders Lord Jesus, rescue instead of reinforce. When something does not done, I gotta do that whole section again. Recuse. Most accountability breakdowns do not happen because people are lazy or they don't care. They happen because leaders unintentionally create conditions, scenarios, situations where follow through becomes difficult or uncomfortable. One of the most common ones I've seen in my time as a nonprofit consultant is avoidance. And I saw it also in the boardroom back in my old days. Leaders avoid hard conversations because they want to preserve relationships, especially in the community space where you leaders are right now. Y'all know one another. Y'all have had coffee and dinners. Your kids know one another. You run into each other at the Costco. So you don't want to seem harsh because you're going to see them in a non-board space. You don't want to create that tension because you need them to work with you. And over time, that avoidance sends a real quiet message to the whole organization that standards are flexible and commitments are optional. You don't want that. Accountability also can break down when leaders rescue instead of reinforce. Sometimes y'all put that S in your chest and you all over the place. I am one of them, and I'm trying to work better about it. I'm trying to be a reformed one of these. When something does not get done, a leader steps in, fixes it themselves. You move the deadline, you take on the task, you quietly absorb a responsibility. And in that moment, it feels helpful. But I tell you from experience, in the long run, it just teaches the organization that ownership is optional and that leadership will just carry the weight. I know for a fact this year and all the boards that my resolution I'm doing now is next year, if you don't get it done, I'm not taking it on. We work together to fix it if we can. If not, it's going to get pushed to the next year. I'm trying to get myself out of that. This one hits me. Another pattern is overcommitment without capacity. Teams sometimes agree too much. It's all right to disagree. Boards approve ambitious goals without understanding the workload. People love to say yes because we're in the community space. Yes, that would be a good idea. They say yes because they care, not because they have the room to do it. Accountability suffers when expectations are unrealistic. Eventually, miscommitments will happen, and that'll become the norm because everything and everyone is just overloaded. It's not even space in between. You're right on top. Finally, accountability cultures break down when feedback is delayed. When issues are addressed weeks, months later, the moment passed. The learning opportunity is gone. And that pattern has already started repeating itself in a new way. Timely feedback is not just important, it's about urgency, it's about revealing what's going on. None of these issues come from bad intent. They come from leadership habits that have gone unexamined. But there's good news, my friends. These are just habits. And we all know habits can change. Gonna take some work, but it can change. When leaders name these patterns honestly, accountability stops feeling personal and starts feeling structural. The conversation shifts from blame to improvement. That is where our real change will begin. Creating a culture of accountability does not start with policies or systems. It starts with leadership behavior. What you model becomes the standard, whether it's intentional or not. It reminds me of my niece. You know, I have a habit of standing a certain way, like they call it like an old man. And I looked down one day, she was standing next to me just like her Uncle Willie. So whether it's intentional or not, these patterns will happen. The first shift leaders must make is to check in early and often. I talked about that a lot in every video, pretty much. Accountability should not feel like a surprise. Regular, low-pressure check-ins keeps work visible. It allows adjustments before things get off track. It lets people know that, hey, I'm here for you. These conversations are not about catching mistakes. I gotcha. They are about staying connected to the work. Leaders also need to address miscommitments quickly and directly. When something does not get done, that response matters. As we talked about, it needs to be timely. So ignoring it continues to communicate acceptance. Excuse me, tongue-tied. Overacting creates fear. A simple, timely conversation keeps accountability intact while preserving that trust you love so much. Lastly, leaders must be accountable to themselves. We talked about that leadership self-reflection. Nothing undermines culture faster than leaders who expect follow-through but do not model it. When leaders own their commitments out loud, acknowledge mistakes, and correct courses publicly, they normalize accountability across the entire organization. Accountability cultures are built through repetition. Rinse and repeat, my friends. Clear expectations, consistent check-ins, timely conversations, and being visible in your ownership of what you did wrong and what you did right. You have to raise your hand and say, I failed sometimes. When leaders commit to these behaviors, accountability stops feeling heavy and becomes part of the organization's everyday operations. We want a healthy, accountable organization because it does more than just keeps track of tasks. It strengthens everything you do. It changes how people experience the organization, the work, the people, the mission. How leaders share responsibility and how trust is built over time matters. In an accountability culture, trust increases. People know what's expected. They know how progress will be checked, and they know that issues will be addressed fairly and early. That consistency will build that confidence in leadership and in one another. Accountability also decreases burnout. Boop, boop. When ownership is shared, leadership stops carrying everybody's load. You're not here alone. Staff can stop guessing what matters most. Volunteers can stop feeling stretched without direction. Clear accountability creates a healthier, fair workload and is more sustainable with the energy within of the workers. All in all, results will improve. Not because everybody's working harder, it's because things are moving with clarity. When commitments are clear, follow through is clear, things become normal, progress is predictable. The organization just moves with intent instead of urgency. You're not always putting out fires. You're not always building the plane while flying it. You're not always tearing up the kitchen. Yes, the plate everybody gets in the front of the house is beautiful, but that kitchen is a disaster. Perhaps most importantly, in my mind, accountability supports leadership growth. People will want to step into responsibilities of growth because they know they will be supported, not punished. They learn how to own those outcomes. They ask for help. They'll adjust when needed. And over time, accountability becomes a pathway for future leaders, not a barrier. Because eventually, many of us leaders roll out or move into something else. We need somebody to want to come up and not have to heavy convince them. Healthy accountability protects your mission. You worked hard to have this mission and vision. Protect it. It ensures that those values are not just stated. It's not just looks good on the plaque that we got from 4imprint, but it's practice. It ensures that plans are not just written down, but carried out. And it ensures that leadership is shared rather than concentrated. You have an organization that's built for a purpose of multiple people. Share the responsibilities all around. Whether you have a working board, a governing board, a hybrid, volunteers, directors, staff, it's more than you. Share. When accountability becomes part of your culture, your organization will stop relying on heroic Herculean efforts. It starts relying on that shared commitment. That shift is what allows organizations to grow without losing the soul of the organization. Something to think about. As we close this episode and the arc of episodes, this 4-part series, I want to take a moment to try to bring it all together for you. So just in case you missed the other ones, give you something to take with you, and then go look at the other ones. Thank you so much. Accountability is not about control. It is not about pressure, And it's not about trying to catch somebody up in a mistake. As we said before, we're not here for a gotcha moment. Accountability is about protecting the work and the people who are doing it. Healthy accountability cultures create clarity instead of confusion. They create that trust instead of fear. And they allow leaders to stop carrying everything alone. When accountability is present, expectations are crystal clear. Follow through is normal, and conversations happen early before frustrations build and boil and run over, which means momentum gets lost. Throughout this 4-part episode arc, we talked about clarity, planning, alignment, and now accountability. These are not separate ideas, they are connected. Clarity sets your direction. Planning creates structure. Alignment keeps everyone moving together. And accountability ensures that work actually happens. If your organization feels tired, feels stretched, feels stuck, accountability is often the missing puzzle piece. Not because, again, people do not care, but because expectations and ownership have not been held consistently. Building a culture of accountability is leadership work. And hear me on the word work. It's heavy. It requires courage, consistency, and care. But when it is done well, it creates a healthier team, it creates stronger results, and it creates an organization that can grow without losing its purpose. This is how missions stay protected. This is how leaders stay human, okay? Because sometimes y'all forget y'all are not superheroes. Y'all are humans taking on Herculean efforts, but you can get that help. And lastly, this is how organizations stay healthy and growing forward and expanding more. Thank you, my friends, for joining me for this episode of the RightTouch Rundown and walking with me through this entire arc. If this conversation has helped you see accountability a little bit different, share it with another leader who is navigating growth, navigating transition or change. Don't you gatekeep. These conversations are meant to be shared like accountability. I want you to follow RightTouch Solutions for more leadership insight, some practical guidance, and tools to help strengthen your mission-driven organization. Remember, as always, my friends, mission moves best with structure. Have a safe and relaxing holiday, my friends, and I will see you in the new year. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.